All right, welcome in. 49ers thrashed the Bears 38-13. Here's your Sunday night show immediately following Sunday Night Football, where doesn't this all seem scripted? The Kansas City Chiefs just beat Jim Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers on a last-second field goal. But remember that Harrison Butker, their starting kickers on IR. The Chiefs' backup, or I guess I should say third-string kicker, is Matthew Wright, who was with the 49ers earlier this year. He kicked for them in Seattle, and then he dislocated his shoulder. So he was released with an injury settlement from the 49ers. He kicked the game-winning field goal for Kansas City. Not only did Matthew Wright kick the game-winning field goal, it hit off the upright and bounced in. On top of everything, Matthew Wright is wearing number 49. The former 49er for a game this year, who's been emblematic of some of the 49ers' bad luck this season. Remember, they had to use 3 kickers in 3 straight games, like 3 different kickers. He's wearing number 49 and winning a game for the Kansas City Chiefs with his kick going off the upright but going in. This season's been wild for Kansas City. I'm sticking with the prediction. Kansas City's losing in either the divisional round or the conference championship. They are just not a dominant team this year. I give them credit for winning at the end of these games, week in and week out, but I do not think that they're going to have the overpowering firepower to push this through against teams like Buffalo. Buffalo obviously did lose today to the Rams. I see a lot of 1990 49ers in the Chiefs. Chiefs going for the three-peat, just like those 49ers were. Well, the 1990 49ers did not have enough firepower to get past the New York Giants. Anyway, welcome in. The 49ers thrashed the Bears 38-13. Article is up on the San Francisco Standard. You should check that out. I'm going to take the link to this article, send it over to Mike. Mike is going to put this into the description so you can go ahead and see it. When you are on that page, you're going to have an opportunity to join the Standard. There's memberships, and it's sfstandard.com/memberships. You should definitely take advantage of that. We just launched the memberships. It's the best way to support our 49ers coverage. And, well, it looks like things are about to get very interesting. They got much more interesting today with the 49ers beating the Bears as badly as they did. First off, there's no question that Brock Purdy is a big money quarterback. There was no question before this game. He was already a league MVP finalist last season. He 4-2 in the postseason with one of those losses coming after his elbow got blown up by Hassan Reddick. The Eagles' result last year suggested the 49ers might have won that NFC Championship game against Philadelphia had Brock Purdy stayed healthy. This is an ultra-successful quarterback who has been the most efficient quarterback in the league ever since entering the league, and today might have been his very best performance from an efficiency standpoint. Here's how Brock Purdy compared to Caleb Williams today. This was just absurd from Brock Purdy when it came to the statistical footprint. 0.81 expected points added per play. That means he's adding nearly a full point of expected value. It's like a scoreboard point every single time he dropped back the pass. The completion percentage over expectation ended up being a little bit lower because there was an incompletion right after this. I took this screenshot right before the end of the game, but the completion percentage over expectation plus 20.2 is obscene at the time. Average depth of target, I mean, he was throwing downfield. One of the best throws today from Brock Purdy was cross hash to Juwan Jennings. The Bears started to make a little bit of noise at the start of the second half. They cut it to 24-6. And it was like, oh, okay, well, here comes Chicago. 49ers better put together a drive here. They better move the ball or at least eat up some clock. And Purdy responded with a long throw to Juwan Jennings. I've got the game book right here. It was a 39-yard completion. The ball traveled from the near side hash mark on the field right behind me here at Levi's all the way across the far side hash mark outside the numbers to Jennings, who had slipped behind a linebacker. And that means that you do Pythagorean theorem, you look at the hypotenuse, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That ball traveled roughly 50 yards in the air. If Purdy had put that one any further past Jennings, there was a chance the safety was going to be able to come over and light Jawan Jennings up. So you've got to put that ball in a position where the safety doesn't have a chance moving across the hashes. And Brock Purdy having to flip his hips away from the play, put that throw exactly where it needed to be. Perfect throw. He made it safe too. He put it in a position where Jawan Jennings didn't have to make some kind of crazy catch, and it helped seal the game. That was one of the many, many excellent throws that Brock Purdy made today. But more than anything, he just commands the game. He knows how to play the quarterback position. That's why he's one of the best in football. That's why he's going to earn big money from the 49ers. The narrative this week has been idiotic. I have called out the narrative all week, and I'm correct on Brock Purdy again. But I'm not bragging. It's not hard to be correct. Brock Purdy has been good since his very first snap taking over for Jimmy Garoppolo against the Miami Dolphins in Week 13 of 2022. It is mind-boggling that so many people have not figured out or are refusing to acknowledge that Brock Purdy is a top-tier quarterback. Every single statistic goes out and confirms that. The eye test confirms that even more. You go out and watch. I mean, there's no lack of arm strength. There's no lack of quickness. We've talked about the 10-yard split a lot. And what he did today in the face of this just untethered criticism after a snow game in Buffalo, where probably only Josh Allen is built to perform in those kind of conditions in the way that he did. But the 49ers defense was already struggling. The way that Brock Purdy delivered today should reemphasize, even in the minds of people that are thinking about this completely wrong, should reemphasize that Brock Purdy is a big money quarterback. On top of all that, the intel that I got from the locker room is that Brock Purdy was actually asked to speak to the team last night. Kyle Shanahan hadn't done a whole lot of this, a whole lot of asking players to speak at team meetings. He did it earlier in his tenure with some veterans, but it's been mainly coaches. I think I'm not sure if Nick Bosa was always the Saturday night before or at some other point, but obviously Bosa's hurt right now, so he wasn't speaking. So Kyle Shanahan went and asked Brock Purdy and Deommodore Lenoir to address the 49ers team. And they both obliged. And I wrote about the message that Purdy and Lenoir both gave the 49ers team. Lenoir was focused on grit, and Purdy just has some great quotes from this article. I just put it up on the Standard, so go ahead and check that out. But Purdy's quotes in here really emphasize staying even-keeled. And sometimes to stay even-keeled, the boat is rocking in a negative way, which it was for the 49ers. They're 5-7, so you need a leader to dig you up out of the funk. And he did that. But now the 49ers have this very unique challenge of, okay, massive win. They showed that they can be back on track, but they don't have all week to sit here and relish in the victory. The Rams, who just beat the Bills 44-42, are coming to this stadium, are coming to Levi's Stadium on Thursday night. So it's going to be 3 days of rest for the 49ers. And then this game against LA and Matthew Stafford. And that's a team that was much more injured back in week 3, but still beat the 49ers down at SoFi. I think it was the worst loss of the season for San Francisco. So it's up to the stabilizing force of somebody like Brock Purdy asked to speak on Saturday night to now keep the 49ers from getting too high off of this win against the Bears so they can go out and do something similar against the Rams, who obviously are also right now infused with a lot of energy. And, when everybody talks about Brock Purdy and they have these dumb arguments about arm strength, which anybody who knows football sees that he's got the arm strength. They have these stupid arguments about speed. They have these worthless arguments about size. The guy's a top-tier performer at quarterback, period. End of story. That debate is over. The people that said that about Brock Purdy are on the right side. I don't want to hear any more of it. If I hear any more of it, I'm going to call you a casual because you are. That you're just wrong if that's your opinion on Brock Purdy. But outside of all of these discussions, which are a gigantic waste of air, the quarterback position has another requirement. And that is to bring a sense of leadership to a team that keeps it from getting too high when things are going well and also keeps it from getting too low when things are going poorly. So we've obviously seen Brock Purdy as a rudder for this team over the course of the past couple seasons when they've been doing really well. He himself said this week it's going to be imperative for the 49ers to show who they are when they're 5-7, and now they're 6-7. So they obviously showed out well when they're 5-7. So this week is a combination of both challenges for Brock Purdy, though. He's obviously already showed that he can lead the 49ers out of a rut, but now can he make sure that they get that second win in 5 days against the Rams on Thursday by keeping the temperature of the building at an even keel? And I think there's so much subtlety and art to quarterback leadership. 49ers fans know it so well from Joe Montana and Steve Young. I mean, they called him Joe Cool, right? He was able to keep his cool no matter what was going on. But when I went out to Iowa this summer, I went to Ames, Iowa, Brock Purdy's college town, and I met with the whole staff there, and I learned the whole story. And, obviously I've gotten to know Brock, and I got to know his family. And over the whole journey over the past 3 years, the one thing that has stood out to me most about Brock Purdy is how even-keeled he is and how he's able to bring that energy to those around him. People talked about Montana in the same way back in the 80s, and I think for good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, whatever you want to label him, that is the type of energy that he has to bring to the rest of the team. Now, this was an impressive performance by any regard. The 49ers had been obviously struggling offensively. The Bears were the number 5 pass defense in the league. And as I predicted, the Bears dedicated a whole heck of a lot to trying to stop the run in this game. 49ers ultimately did run for 131 yards, but over 34 carries. So that was a 3.9 per carry. It wasn't like the 49ers were massively explosive. In fact, Isaac Guerendo had one 30-yard run, but outside of that, the 49ers' longest run was 8 yards. So Chicago showed a lot of faith in their defensive backs, in their coverage, saying, hey, where you want to stop the run game or at least slow it for the 49ers, let's see if the 49ers pass game can beat us. And guess what the 49ers pass game did? It beat the Chicago Bears. That was Purdy working with Shanahan. Entering last week, the 49ers had thrown the fewest screen passes in the league. They threw 7 against Buffalo, but I said, well, it's snowing, so maybe that's why. 2 early screens to George Kittle were everything. And George talked about it today. He said they run a lot of pirate looks, speaking of the Bears. This goes back to when Eberflus was the coach. He was the coordinator of Indianapolis back in 2021. Eberflus got fired, so he's no longer the coach. Although it seems like the quarterback might be a problem too, and they can't fire him. In Caleb Williams. They still run a lot of these stunts at defensive end. They're very aggressive off the edge. Kind of like how the 49ers are really aggressive off the edge. And teams tend to run some screen passes, especially when the 49ers linebackers are not available. Spoiler alert, Dre Greenlaw is going to be back on Thursday. But when the 49ers can't clean up behind the front four, teams can beat them with screen passes because they're so aggressive. Like a screen is where you send your offensive lineman out, you let the pressure get to the quarterback, though, throws, and then you've got a convoy of blockers. So the 49ers had run the fewest screens in the league. They hadn't set up layups for Brock Purdy. They were last in yards after the catch. Purdy had been tasked with a very hard job. It was almost like late-stage Russell Wilson with the Seattle Seahawks. I guess I should say late-stage Seattle Seahawks with Pete Carroll, where he was just running for his life and throwing deep, and the 49ers didn't have any sustainable semblance of a shorter passing game. So Shanahan changed that today. Shanahan went back and he said, we need to run screens so we can take advantage of these pirate looks that the Chicago Bears are going to throw against us. And if we play this correctly, then we're going to get chunk yardage early. So there was a screen early on, 33 yards to George Kittle, that saw an entire convoy. It was Jalen Moore, left tackle, Ben Barch, left guard, and the center, Jake Brendel, out ahead of George Kittle. Sets up the first Jawan Jennings touchdown. Boom. There you have it. And the second screen came shortly thereafter for 20-plus yards, set up another touchdown for the 49ers. That is an example of Shanahan setting up the short game, working in conjunction with Brock Purdy to rediscover the magic of the past for the 49ers. Everybody gets so enamored with air yards, and Brock Purdy has shown to be one of the most accurate deep passers in the league. But everybody gets so enamored with air yards and deep passes, and I know Purdy has set records on the intermediate passes too, but it's the short game that just has to be there, especially when defenses get aggressive up in the box. And the short game hadn't been there consistently for the 49ers this year. Again, the fewest screens attempted or called by Kyle Shanahan entering last week. Today, it was 2 massive screen passes set the table. In fact, I would say that 49ers offense early on might have reminded you of 2022 and 2023, except Isaac Guerendo was playing the Christian McCaffrey role. How about that check down early on? Or just go back to the very first throw of the game today. That was Brock Purdy to Juwan Jennings. They got an out pattern against the safety, Kevin Byard. And as soon as they saw that matchup, they said, we're going first read to the out for Juwan Jennings. Pitch and catch, gets Brock Purdy in rhythm. Pass sets up the run. The very first play was a pass because the box was stacked. Well executed. Sets up Guerendo check down 23 yards. That sets up Kittle's screen 33 yards. Jennings corner touchdown. Boom. 5 plays, 70 yards for the 49ers. Another thing I talk about is the chess match. And Kittle today had 161 yards. How did I get that wrong? Kittle had 151 yards. His mom, Jan, walked up to me on the field before the game, and she said, I think George is going to go for 150. And I said, okay, I'll credit you if it does happen. So I'm obligated to let you know that Jan Krieger-Kittle said that George Kittle would go for 150 yards, and he got 151. So we'll check in with her before every game for a prediction. But Kittle and Juwan Jennings in this game. How many times this year have we surmised that Kyle Shanahan hadn't been quite a step ahead or a move ahead in the chess match against opposing defensive coordinators? So through the screen passes to Kittle, I think that today he was ahead of those pirate stunts that the Bears run off of defensive end. With Juwan Jennings on the second touchdown, the first was on a little corner. The second was on a choice route. The 49ers have run the out route time and time again to Juwan Jennings, including the first play of this game for 7 yards. So then Jennings catches a touchdown later on a choice route. He's on the outside, and he takes a little subtle move because he knows how to control his body. Juwan Jennings is a very, very adept route runner. He's not a fast receiver, but he's an extremely adept route runner. And he makes just this subtle move at the line of scrimmage. And the cornerback is Kyler Gordon, who's covering Juwan Jennings. It's not Jalen Johnson out of Fresno on the play. The subtle move causes Gordon to bite on what the 49ers had run in the past, the out route. And Jennings instead takes it inside. Purdy hits him. Jennings dives for the touchdown. So the 49ers had shown tendency to throw the out to Jennings, but they win the chess match with the choice route and the break inside. That's a credit to Shanahan for giving Jennings the option. It's a credit to Juwan Jennings for being such a good route runner and recognizing where the leverage was going to be greater. And it's a credit to Brock Purdy for releasing the ball on time. Speaking of releasing the ball on time or not releasing the ball on time, Caleb Williams is terrible. I mean, you need to zoom out and be thankful for what the 49ers have here. The Bears sold the farm to draft Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. This guy took 7 sacks today, including a throw backwards. That was a fumble that counted as a sack. He has now been sacked 56 times this season. That's more than 10 times more than the second most sacked quarterback in the league. Meanwhile, the Bears have the number 6 rated offensive line, or number 7 if you look at PFF grades, 6 by pass block win rate. That's from ESPN. And they've got weapons. I saw Keenan Allen out there today. I saw DJ Moore out there today. I mean, it's not like an offense that's devoid of talent, yet Caleb Williams is like a sack-taking machine. Like, over and over again, this guy just takes sacks. And he made a 49ers defense that looked absolutely atrocious over the past 2 weeks. Look awesome today. And I'm going to give credit to the 49ers defense too. I think they made a couple changes that were notable. But look at this at the bottom of the screen. 320-4. That was the yardage in the first half. The 49ers had 320 yards and the Bears had 4. I mean, you've got to be so inept. This was the worst beating that a team had ever taken over a half against the 49ers in the Shanahan era. So, yes, we're going to credit the 49ers, but first of all, we've got to say that the conversation that we had yesterday on social media, people were saying, like, people trying to attack me for saying Brock Purdy is better than Caleb Williams. You were wrong. Brock Purdy's a lot better than Caleb Williams. I don't think Brock Purdy will ever have a game where he manages just 4 yards of offense in the first half. That was really, really bad from the Chicago Bears. Anyway, San Francisco Standard article is up. You can go ahead and check that out. We're going to go through a few things. I talked about Kittle and Jennings. I talked about the chess match. 49ers have to turn around. They have to be ready for Thursday night now. So that intensifies the chess match because I think somebody like Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, those guys are going to bring it against the 49ers in this game. And on a short week, coaches aren't going to get a lot of sleep. You'd hope that players do to physically recover, but Kyle Shanahan's probably going to be sleeping in the office. McVay's going to be sleeping in the office. Shanahan got the upper hand today, but it will not be as easy to get the upper hand on Thursday for the 49ers. So this is going to be some interesting stuff moving forward. Now, I talk about crediting the defense. Well, there's a big impact made today by Talanoa Hufanga. Talanoa Hufanga was in a role today where he replaced Jair Brown, and the 49ers were really struggling on run defense when Jair Brown was back there over the past couple of weeks. He was missing a lot of tackles. I don't think that the angles were good. He played again today, and I think he played much better in run defense without the pressure that came with starting the game there. I think that Talanoa Hufanga really set a tone for the 49ers from a communication standpoint, because you got to remember, angles, guys flying around, you're dictating things, you're seeing things from the back end. Hufanga's an all-pro. There's been a little too much disrespect regarding Talanoa Hufanga. People are saying, hey, the 49ers are just going to let him walk after this year. He's not that important. He's replaceable. I think the last few weeks have shown that Talanoa Hufanga is not easily to be replaced. And today, I mean, what did DeAndre Swift do for the Bears? 14 carries for 38 yards. So run defense that had been completely inept for 2 weeks for the 49ers gave up 2.7 yards per carry to DeAndre Swift today. I think a lot of it goes to Talanoa Hufanga. A lot of it goes to Devondre Campbell has been good. 7 tackles led the 49ers today. And then defensively, Leonard Floyd seems to be an automatic 10 sacks for Leonard every single time he takes the field for a season. He's at 8.5 sacks now on the 2024 season. So he's only a sack and a half away with 4 games left to play. Injury update, Isaac Guerendo, foot sprain, and Ben Barch, it looks like a high ankle sprain. Unfortunate for the 49ers. This show is brought to you by Public Rec. This season, unwrap the gift of comfort with the Game Changer pants from Public Rec, the office pants that look like Monday but feel like Sunday. Imagine clocking in while feeling as cozy if you were still in bed sipping hot cocoa. They've sent me some of these pants, and they indeed are comfortable. So stop suffering in regular pants and give the gift of comfort this holiday season. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off when you use the code Lombardi at checkout. That's 20% off with the code Lombardi at publicrec.com. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Give yourself or someone you love the gift of comfort this holiday. And definitely check out the San Francisco Standard. A couple things here for you before we sign off. Brock Purdy, league leader, yards per attempt this week. Sam Darnold, 12.4, right behind him. These are the NFC West standings. This is how big Thursday night is. 49ers at 6-7, Rams at 7-6. The 49ers can pull even with the Rams. And the Seahawks play the Packers and Sam Darnold and the Vikings over the next 2 weeks. And then they play the Rams in Week 18. So this is still far from over. And I have to get the SFO. Why? Because Margot is flying in. Look at her. She is going to be landing at 9:32 from Nashville. So we're tracking Margot's flight. Everybody comment. Welcome Margot back to the Bay Area. 49ers have won 38-13. Thanks for joining. Make sure you check out the Standard. Here's the article on Purdy and the speech that he gave, Grit from the 49ers. That was from Lenore, from Brock Purdy. He told this team that he emphasized that even keel. And today, that even keel needed a little bit more energy. Needed some desperation. Desperation led to a win. What will Thursday bring? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. We'll have much more very soon.